Hello everyone and welcome to Fertility Network's Coping at Christmas webinar. I'm Kate, and for those of you who don't know about Fertility Network, we're the charity for anyone affected by fertility problems. We offer support across the UK with local groups and our support line, and we speak out for fertility patients, ensuring you have a voice and that you're listened to. Today I'm joined by two very special guests. Rebecca Brown came into the public eye when she and her family won the lottery in 2016, and she used some of her winnings to pay for IVF. In 2018, Rebecca had some health issues and discovered she didn't have time to spare if she wanted to conceive, so started treatment. We're also joined by Sophie Sulehria, who's a former BBC journalist. She and her husband shared their struggle with fertility on Radio 4's PM programme in a series which then became a podcast called The Long Road to Baby. And Sophie's now an ambassador for the fertility and motherhood app, Peanut. And Sophie and Rebecca are here today to talk about getting through what can be a really difficult time of year and to think about what might be helpful. Rebecca, I wanted to ask you first of all about Christmas 2018, because I know that for you that was a particularly difficult Christmas, and I wondered if you could tell us a bit about that.
So I'd had some precancerous cells of the cervix picked up earlier in the year, where I had some treatment. They wanted to do an hysterectomy. They discussed hysterectomy, which then made me sort of more vocal about the fact that I wanted to have children. I was asked if I had a partner by the consultant, which I didn't, and said she sort of made it clear that I needed to sort of hurry up and have children if I wanted to. Had these precancerous cells taken, went back again, had another lot of precancerous cells removed. Unfortunately, they got them that time. Went to try and start on my fertility journey when I ended up having a large mass on my right ovary detected and having to have some tumour markers taken. I also had my 6-month follow-up to make sure my cells were still clear in that time. And then over the Christmas period, I was waiting for the results of all of the procedures I had done and the tumour markers to check to see if the mass was anything that needed further treatment.
So for you, that Christmas was a real time of waiting and of not being certain what the future might hold?
Yeah.
For me, sorry, I thought you said for Sophie. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Sophie, I was going to ask you, what do you think it is about Christmas that makes it a particularly difficult time when you're trying to get pregnant?
Well, I think that every holiday, including Christmas, very much Christmas, but to be honest, this could count for Thanksgiving, it could count for Eid, it could count for Mother's Day. Everything geared up around children. And I think as children, when we were younger, we loved Christmas. We looked forward to Christmas, the stocking, putting the mince pie out for Santa. You know, it was all about children. And I think as you get older, you start to envisage Christmases with your own children. And this is the build up through your whole life, isn't it? Like you, as a woman in particular, you sort of gear this whole event up to then expecting that when the time is right and when you're ready, you're going to have a baby that you'll celebrate Christmas with. And so, of course, when that starts to become a struggle, these holidays then take on a different connotation. They stop being about the child that you want, and it becomes all encompassing, and you start envisaging Christmases and other holidays with this child, and when they're not here for another year, it's just another dark day, and it just perpetuates, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Christmas is meant to be a really sociable time, and you're meant to be with friends, family, going out, having fun. I mean, Rebecca, did you feel like doing that Christmas?
No, it does help that I'm not a very big drinker anyway and things, and so that doesn't bother me too much about going out. But no, I didn't. I wanted to be with my mum and dad and my sister. They're my sort of support network, and I just wanted to be with them. And basically that's what I did. But yeah, I didn't want to, no.
Sophie, did you find that a struggle sometimes, not wanting to go to things where other people were going to be there and maybe ask awkward questions or maybe be with their children?
I avoided those kind of events after we found that it was a struggle and that we were not able to have children the conventional way, or indeed it wasn't working for us at the time, we just didn't go to things. You know, I remember Christmases that I cried all the way to the event and then just didn't go in the end. I've ruined lots of events for lots of people. Even the years that I felt strong and I got involved with a party, I'd then be stunned by a pregnancy announcement from somebody, or from somebody's friend, or from somebody in the family, and it would just floor me. And so I did retreat from a lot of things. New Year's Eve parties I left. You know, it was just all encompassing, as I say. But I think with, you know, as you mentioned, I'm now an ambassador for Peanut, and I'm really passionate about the product because for those of you that don't know, Peanut is an app that connects you from trying to conceive through to pregnancy, through to motherhood. And the TTC community are just wonderful in there. There's 50,000 users in the UK alone who are there at the click of a button. And I think if I'd had a app like Peanut, so I think it would have made me feel so much better at the time. But now women can log into Peanut, you know, on Christmas Day, on Boxing Day, on New Year's Eve, on Mother's Day, and there will be other women in there just saying, you can just say, help, I'm really struggling. And all these women and friends and community will come back and say, I am too, and let's talk. And what a wonderful thing to be able to have at a time like this, because I just wished for something like this at Christmases and other events when we were trying to conceive.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that kind of peer-to-peer support is such a good thing. And there are so many places now that you can find it. And I know, you know, I had fertility problems a very long time ago, and then there was absolutely nothing. And now I think there are so many places that people can go and get together with other people, which can make all the difference. Rebecca, when you were trying to get pregnant, did you have any friends that you could rely on, or was it really just your family that you were talking to about it all?
I had a good friend who actually encouraged me. We'd had quite a few chats before about children and things, and she actually had been down the IVF route with her wife, and so I would often, you know, I could talk to her, my parents, and I have got some good close friends, and you know, I was able to talk to them if I wanted to, but I did mostly confide in my parents and my sister.
One of the other things that sometimes comes up, Sophie, for people is, you know, when you're trying to conceive, you're often following this very kind of rigorous kind of not drinking, not eating unhealthily lifestyle. And at Christmas, people can start asking questions about that. Did you ever experience that?
I mean, throughout the whole year, I think people would ask questions because we'd been married for how many years? If I was or wasn't drinking, if I wasn't eating, if I wasn't or wasn't, you know, happy, you know, there was always the questions, you know, and for the people that didn't know that we were trying, it would be constant. It would be, well, you've been married for 2 years now. What's going on? And, oh, you know, you can't rely on a career forever. These real sort of assumptions that it was our fault that we weren't pregnant. But, you know, people aren't expected. I don't know why there's an expectation for people to have children in the first place, and that people think it's okay at any time of year, including Christmas, to say, you know, have you got any news? Because it's no one else's business, but it's so much worse if there's an issue there. So yes, by year 5 or whatever that we were still trying, it was getting really, really awkward. And I think but by then we had become really honest, because it was breaking us anyway. So people constantly remarking on why we didn't have a child for Christmas would then start to get it in the neck. I'd be like, well, we can't, so what's the you know, what you're going to say now? Because your defense mechanisms kick in. It's just so difficult, and you do feel micro watched, managed, you know, are you drinking, are you not? And sometimes you just didn't want to, you know, but that would be you're right, you feel very, very under the microscope.
Did you feel like that at all, Rebecca? I mean, obviously it was slightly different for you because you were doing all this by yourself without a partner. Did that make it more lonely, do you think?
I think because I have got such a close family, then it wasn't so bad. But I see that it could be if you don't have that. Yeah, and people do. I mean, even I didn't have a partner, but they'd still be like, wouldn't you want to have children? Well, yeah, maybe I would. And you find sometimes yourself saying, no, I don't really want children,
Of course.
Did you lie, Sophie, or were you truthful?
No, the first few years I did lie, because it's the rhetoric, it's what you're led to think, from the moment that you start trying for a baby anyway, you immediately feel like you have to say it, whisper behind closed doors. Even now, when people say to me, can I talk to you about my fertility struggle? I don't want anyone to know. I feel heartbroken, because it's this sort of well-known thing that trying for a baby, and if you're struggling to have one, it has to be something that you don't discuss with anybody. So it starts with just you and your husband, and then potentially you tell your family, close family, and venture into your friendship circles. But you can't wear a badge on your lapel saying, don't talk to me about children, I'm struggling. So it's not the sort of thing you'd mention across coffee with a workmate, is it? But in a way it should be, because back in the day it was the big C, don't talk about cancer, and now everybody just says, and so rightly so, it is an important, if you feel like you want to talk about it, I feel like it shouldn't be made taboo. I feel like you should be able to discuss it. And so after a while we did, and I was just becoming very honest with a lot of people. And then of course we went very public and did lots of work for Radio 4 to try and break the stigma. And the stigma is definitely crumbling. We're here now talking about it very publicly. We've got our faces out there. Everyone knows who we are. And we do, lots of people do lots of work in the media now, but it's still, even today, when people are struggling, they regularly tell me in confidence for at least a year before it's out.
Rebecca,
and that's sad.
Rebecca, what made you decide to go public with your story? Because you didn't need to tell people. What was it about it that made you want to let people know about what had happened?
Again, because I don't tend to worry too much about what people think about me, or their opinions don't matter to me, so long as my family and my closest friends, their opinion matters to me. Other people doesn't. And I think I met a few people have said, oh, I didn't realise you had I didn't even know you had a partner. So then I'm not going to lie, because I want it to always, come out that, I want it always to be out there. So there's no big secret. There's no whispering behind backs. If people want to ask me, they can hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I met a lady who said, it was when I went for an eye test, and she was a little bit older than me. And I said something about going back to collect my glasses because I was due to give birth. And she said that, she wishes she'd have been brave enough, because I sort of discussed it with her then. And I thought, well, if it was out there a bit more, maybe people are missing out on trying if just because they're worrying about what people would say about them. So I just thought, why not? It gets it out there, and it might help someone else to talk about their journey, whatever it may be. So yeah, that's basically why.
Sophie, not everyone does feel able to talk about it. As you said earlier, there's still a stigma, there's still a lot of taboo, and some people really just don't feel that they can talk about it. I mean, what would you say to people like that about what you can say to other people, I suppose?
I think it's totally fine if you don't want to talk about it. I think that if you really want to keep it between you and your partner, or your family, or yourself, that is entirely your prerogative. But if you feel trapped and you feel like you want to talk about it but you don't feel allowed to, I would say that you are entirely okay to say it. If you want to, and there's so many different levels of this, you don't have to go to the media and do what I did or Rebecca did and shout from the rooftops into like the newspaper articles, unless you want to, and then this community will welcome you with open arms. But if you just want to tell people in conversation at work, or tell people just as it's you know, as it flows and you feel like you can, you should feel entirely right to do that, because it's not a stigma. You shouldn't feel ashamed. You know, we're not broken as women. Fertility issues happen to goodness knows how many people. I can't remember the last stats, but it's literally millions across the world. So it's more common than a lot of unknown diseases and problems. And it's entirely your choice. But if you want to, there is support and help on how to as well. You know, the Fertility Network have got amazing guidance on how to speak to friends and family and other people about your problems. And there's a wealth of help out there as well. And I'll double mention Peanut, because if you haven't joined the Peanut community, the Trying to Conceive community is such a loving and caring one. And I think, Rebecca, you use it as well. It's just such a nice community to be able to talk about your problems with people that you then will potentially become friends with, because it identifies people by location. So you can even meet up with people locally to you, if that's the sort of friendships you want to seek to find.
Of course, we know it's not just Christmas that's a difficult time. I mean, what for you both have been other sort of difficult triggers? I mean, Rebecca, was Mother's Day a difficult one for you?
In some ways, yes, because you always think, oh, next year this could be me getting a card, or, you know, just like, it's just little things, isn't it? And it's not always at that point. It's normally when you've gone. So like when I'm here with my parents and my sister, and I bought my mum a Mother's Day card, and it's about my mum, and, you know, I'm happy making her day nice. And then you go home, and that's when your thoughts come to your head. When you're, for me, it's when I'm on my own, they're thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I had that?
I think that's really true, actually, Sophie. I don't know what you think about that, but it is that, you know, you can put on a brave face when you're with other people. And I think that's often true of kind of Christmas events and Christmas parties. You may be able to bear 20 minutes of it or whatever, and then you just need to go home and feel sometimes devastated, don't you? I mean, would you have any advice for people about dealing with those kind of events at Christmas? What did you do that worked for you?
I think what we started to do after, because it was quite a long time that this was a problem, we started to really dig deep and work out what we wanted to do. Because I think for a long time, all of these events were just what we felt like we should do. And after a little while, we started to realise, you know, we didn't really want to be in that place because of that person having a baby there, or that person being pregnant, or you know, or sometimes we just wanted to spend time as a couple and just shut the world away. And instead of feeling guilty for doing that, we just accepted that's what we wanted to do. And if people didn't accept it or talked about us behind our back, we just decided that was their problem. Because, you know, I think very rarely people think really about what they want to do themselves. And this doesn't just go for us, it goes for the whole world. Like, we should just be allowed to do what we want to do at these special events. And what I say to people that are struggling generally when they come to me and say, I just can't cope, this is just horrendous, I always say, you must carve out time for you and yourself, not just Christmas, not just Mother's Day, but every single day. It's so crucial. I think that even if it's an hour, just to stop and watch a box set, or go for a walk, or I don't know, whatever makes you happy, do the cleaning, go for a drive, just carve some time out for you and or your partner, and just stick to that. Because if you can carve out a little tiny bit of what makes you happy, and if you can spare yourself a whole day, great. You know, when we're out of lockdown, go to a spa. I did that a few times. It was wonderful. Just to remember who's important in all of this and who you were before all this started.
Rebecca, this Christmas is going to be quite odd for everyone, isn't it? I mean, do you think in a strange kind of way it might actually be slightly easier in lockdown for people who are trying to conceive still?
I think so in some ways, but then sometimes people tend to, if they're not going out to places, a lot of people now tend to then they go straight to the social media, and it's not always the best place either to go. And I think there's pros and cons to both. In some ways it will be easy, you've not got to make the excuses not to go out, But if you can find other ways other than keep going onto the social media and seeing things you don't always want to see as well, you know, have something to occupy your mind if you can.
That's a really good point, actually, Rebecca, because I know that, you know, running fertility networks groups locally, one of the things that often comes up is kind of that Facebook particularly can be a really difficult place. Sophie, did you experience that?
Oh, well, it is, isn't it? Just for everything. I mean, I just really come to dislike posts about every second of people's lives. And, you know, regularly, like our trigger is babies and pregnancy announcements and the wonderful things that Jack's been doing this Christmas. They are our triggers. But I mean, it's a trigger for everything and everyone, isn't it? Everyone posts the best part of their lives up, you know, their weddings. Somebody over there's just got a divorce, you know, their wonderful trip to the Maldives, someone's lost their job. It can be great, but it can also just be so difficult, such a tough place. And I think that Rebecca's advice is like brilliant. You just avoid it if you can. If you're in a dodgy place, you know, and you want to feel good about yourself, don't scroll.
Rebecca, I think actually, as you said, that's particularly good advice at Christmas, because people tend to post quite a lot of sort of, I mean, I don't know if you found that people posting more sort of family oriented things at Christmas.
Yeah, it always seems to be a bit of competition as well, who's got the biggest pile of presents, which, you know, sort of is a bit of a bugbear of mine as well.
Exactly, yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think all of those things can become a bit exacerbated at Christmas, can't they? Did you ever get sort of unhelpful advice at Christmas as well? Because I think unhelpful advice is another thing that a lot of people struggling to conceive find particularly difficult, is the person who knows nothing and has got pregnant themselves in 2 minutes, but would like to tell you what they think would help you to get pregnant. Sophie, did you have that very much?
I mean, again, with everything, isn't it? Just everyone loves to give advice on something that it is difficult with the whole trying to conceive thing, because it often comes, it feels like an accusation as well. So if, you know, just relax, and I am relaxed, stop telling me to relax. You know, you can't be more relaxed in certain points. You also can't make yourself relaxed if you're anxious, you know. So that's a very difficult one, as is, are you eating properly? Have you done it right? I mean, you know, after however many years, I'd hope that I'd gathered that information. But then, you know, at the same time, some people have given some great information and advice, and you don't want to not give the help if the help is actually quite helpful. I just think it maybe wait to be asked, because sometimes you just need some help and advice, don't you? And that's when people that have gone through it are really helpful. That's when I do I go into Peanut now and I ask for advice, and everyone's got lots of ideas and someone's always done something. And I think, you know, I think that it comes with its own balance, but the person that got pregnant in 2 minutes probably shouldn't say, relax.
I think it is really difficult, because I think for the most part people are trying to be kind and trying to be helpful, but it doesn't always feel like that. Did you find that sometimes, Rebecca?
I actually got told just go out and just meet a man in a bar and sleep with him, and it'll be a lot cheaper. I mean, but yeah, so I suppose it was an option, I suppose, but not for me.
No. That comes with its own set of complications, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I think it is quite interesting, some of the odd things that people say. I remember being told to get a dog. I don't know why a dog would have made a difference, but, you know, it is quite odd. And the just relax is another classic one. And I think sometimes, at times like Christmas, it's particularly hard to actually feel relaxed about any of this. Not that you do anyway, because there are so many added tensions already. I mean, Sophie, was that something that you experienced?
What, just feeling the added pressure at Christmas? I mean, I felt the pressure. I'm not one to sort of, if there's pressure applied, I feel the pressure, and it's not just at Christmas, it's at all the times of the year. I struggled with any events, really. Weddings were hard, you know. Weddings were difficult because I'd just picture my own wedding and remember that we were immediately going to start trying for a baby on our honeymoon. you know, it just, all these life events that just always add the pressure. And I just reiterate that you just got to do what makes you happy. And if you need to cry, you need to cry, and that's totally fine. I ran off one Christmas and had to cry in the bedroom because I found out someone was pregnant. I'm not going to apologise for it. I just needed to get it out. I came back, we played a game. You know, you got on with it. It's just another day, isn't it? Birthdays are hard. You know, they're all hard.
That's a good point, though, about that feeling. I think when you're trying to conceive, you almost feel guilty about feeling upset about things.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why do we feel guilty about it making us upset? I don't understand what that is, really, where that comes from. Why should you feel guilty about something upsetting you?
I think because you don't want to ruin other people's day,
Yeah.
but then it's your day. And, you know, if it takes for me to just walk away for a second, I mean, maybe it would be a bit more awkward if I burst into tears at the dinner table, although I'm sure that my family would support that. But I just took myself off for half an hour. And that's fine. It's your day too. You don't have to apologise for feeling like you need a little bit of time on your own. And it goes back to exactly what I said earlier. Like, what do you need as a person to get yourself through this? Because this is seismic and this is difficult. And I reiterate, if somebody was battling cancer, they were dealing with a illness in that way, and they said, I need half an hour, do you mind? You wouldn't question it, would you? You'd just say, yeah, of course, absolutely, go and take yourself off. It is another illness.
That's a really good point, actually. I mean, Rebecca, you're a nurse, and so you know that, you know, not being able to conceive is an illness, but it sometimes seems that people think that it's not really. I mean, do you find that?
Sorry, I missed a little bit.
I think people sometimes think that trying to conceive, they don't almost see it as being an illness like any other illness. You know, if you've got a problem with your ovaries or with your sperm or whatever, why should it be different to any other illness? And yet we somehow don't always think of it as an illness, do we?
Yeah, I find that some people, I think it's hard for people to understand if they've not been through it. And I'll be honest, until it was affecting me, I wasn't completely, you know, I would like to think I wasn't as ignorant as some people can be, but you don't understand as much as when you are faced with it yourself and you've experienced it. So I think sometimes it's just people's lack of understanding as well.
I think that's a very good point, actually. So we've talked about quite a few things that people can do. I think one of the key ones that we've mentioned quite a bit is around seeking out peer support from other people, because I think that's, you know, clearly really important, about taking time for yourself and about not feeling guilty. I wonder, Sophie, is there anything else that you've done at Christmases in the past that have particularly helped you to get through it?
I think that it helped a lot to make Christmas an adult event, actually. So, you know, when in the latter sort of time, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, we just said, right, okay, so Christmas Day is going to be about us going to visit my parents in the morning. We'll drive over and we'll see Jonny's parents, and then we'll go home and we'll have Christmas evening on our own. And Boxing Day, maybe we'll go for a walk, and just really make it an adult event, you know, with alcohol and with films and with presents that mean a lot to us and what we really want to receive, and just take the parts of Christmas that you really enjoy and the parts of Christmas that perhaps you'll miss if you did have a child in the future, because actually, how nice would it be to just have 2-3 hours with your husband to watch a film? Or, you know, and if you haven't got a partner and that's the kind of thing you're longing for, you know, you haven't got a partner and you really want a baby and your life's getting on and you really do want all of that stuff, then what is it? You know, I've spoken to single women that said, I actually spent Christmas Day having a bath. I spent half the day with, you know, myself, having a bath, doing my sort of pampery stuff, going for a walk, and then I joined the family. So just carving that time out, and just knowing that if it all gets too much, you can just say, oh, I'm not feeling well, I'm just going to go home. Nobody's going to question it, you know, and if they do, then you just have to say, no, this is what I need, this is what I want to do, and just try and make it about you again.
I think that's really brilliant advice. Thank you. Rebecca, would you add anything to that? Was there anything that you think might be helpful?
No, like Sophie just said, that's a good idea. You know, if you have got some close family or friends that you can talk to, I mean, I am very lucky. I have got a couple of really good close friends, and if there's someone you do trust to talk to, you want to sort of, even if you want to be on your own, but you know you can just pick up the phone to someone. That's quite nice.
Yeah.
And remember, you can log into Peanut at any time and someone will be there for you. So
thank you. And thank you so much, both of you, Sophie and Rebecca, for sharing your thoughts with us. It's been really lovely today to spend time with you both. Well, we wanted to say that everyone who's been listening, that we all know that Christmas can be a really lonely time, and we hope that some of Sophie and Rebecca's tips will help you. Don't forget that Fertility Network is your charity and we're here to support you. So you can join our groups, you can watch our webinars, you can talk to our team, you can meet other people through our networks. It is a tough time of the year, but don't forget there are 3.5 million people across the UK experiencing fertility problems at the moment. So you're certainly not alone. Thank you.